welcome to Medicine for the Soul Yoga. My name's Kat, and today we have our part 9 of our Journey to Crow series. Today we'll be working again on activating the core, some really fun little yoga exercises and drills to build up strength. We'll also be using yoga blocks. So ideally 2 yoga blocks would be great. If you don't have 2, books can also work very well, or anything that's kind of hard and able to support your weight. So maybe some weighted plates or things like that. If you don't have anything like that, don't worry, because there's going to be options without them too. So it's not essential, but if you have them to use as well. Okay, so let's get going. So we're going to use 2 yoga blocks in today's practice. If you don't have yoga blocks, that's absolutely fine. You can use anything that is pretty solid and brings the floor up, basically, which is what the goal of the yoga block is. So anything like a book, something like a brick, any kind of really solid kind of square or rectangle shape that you can put your weight onto. So that's important. We're going to be really putting our weight onto it, so nothing that's going to break or snap, has to be quite solid. I would say probably books are the best equivalent. Maybe quite a few books that you can stack up and make fairly high. We're going to start by sitting on one of the blocks. So placing the block in the middle of the mat and placing our tailbone on the front half of the block. So we want to be kind of rolling forward off the block or the book, whatever you're using, crossing the legs and feeling the hips opening as the knees draw down. So we don't have to be massively high, just a little bit to take the pressure off the legs, and draw the palms facing up on the lap and draw the chin down. And just notice if there's any tension in the body that you could release here. Breathing deeply in and out through the nose. And just feeling everything softening. Softening in the face, in the legs and the arms. Big deep breaths through the nose. Gently opening the eyes. As we inhale, we're going to bring our arms to cactus, push the elbows away, shine the chest forward, lift the chin. And as we exhale, we're going to bring the hands in front of the face, draw the chin down to the chest and push the hands away. As we inhale, opening up a bit further back with the elbows this time, big inhale. And exhale, rounding the back, draw the hands away. One more time, inhale, reaching the chest, look up. Big inhale, exhale, rounding the back, draw the chin into the chest. This time holding the hands here and gently letting them move side to side, keeping them shoulder height. Breathing deeply through the nose. Finding stillness in the center, we're going to flip the hands around, palm facing away from us, and big inhale, reach the hands up. Good. We'll undo the fingers and have the palms facing each other. We'll squeeze in the core and we'll hinge at the hips and lean forward just ever so slightly. So we're engaging the core, we're drawing the hands back. Arms are framing the ears. Our tailbone is still grounded onto the block. We're squeezing the belly button in, maybe hinging a bit deeper down, keep the spine straight, and then inhale, squeezing up. Good. Exhale, we're going to gently bend over to the right. Not a massive movement at all. Again, keeping the arms framing the ears. Keep breathing, squeezing the belly button into the spine. And inhale, squeeze up. Good. And exhale, we'll gently bend over to the left. Squeezing the belly button in again. And inhale, coming up. Exhale, we're going to twist to the right, bring those cactus arms back. Elbows are shoulder height. Really pushing that right hand and the right elbow back. Look behind you. Use the core to twist. Inhale, back up to center. Big, expansive inhale, lengthen. Exhale, twist to the left. Draw the shoulders away from the ears. Really look behind you. Inhale, reaching up with the hands. And exhale, bring the hands down. Good. We'll just take ourselves off the block, so remove that to the side. And then we'll come into our tabletop, and we're going to take each of the blocks. Ideally, they're going to be the same height. If you're using books, it might be a little bit difficult to stack them, and if it is just a bit too much of a faff, don't use the blocks. It's not essential at all. But if you can, we're going to place one block underneath each hand, so underneath the shoulders. Hips above the knees, and we're just going to do a few cat-cows, but just with the hands raised up, possibly. And just notice how that gives us a bit more space in our cat-cows. So we know the drill here with our cat-cows. We flow slowly. We allow the breath to lead the movement. We can close the eyes and really go within here. Breathing in and out so deeply through the nose, warming up the spine, stretching out the core. Good, finding stillness with a flat back. With the blocks or without the blocks, sliding the hands or the blocks forward. Keep the hips over the knees, we come to puppy pose, we melt the chest down, and potentially with the hands raised, we feel a bit more space here to really allow the chest to lengthen. We're aiming to get the chin onto the mat. Let the hands slide forward, keep the hips over the knees. Big deep breath through the nose, allow the breath to travel down into the belly. Good, and then we'll come up with the hips. Reach the chest forward and drop the hips down. Coming into a nice little cobra. Squeeze the glutes, keep the elbows hugging in. Big deep breaths here. Good. We'll walk the hands with the blocks if you're using them to each side. And inhale, come up a bit deeper. Roll the shoulders, hug the elbows, look up, squeeze. Exhale, look over the right shoulder. Inhale back to center and exhale over to the left. Inhale back to center and exhale. Gently we'll push back and just sit for a moment back in child's pose. So hands are either on the blocks or just on the mat is fine. Big deep breaths here as we gently roll the forehead side to side. And then gently coming up. We'll walk the hands with the blocks, if you're using them, back to our tabletop position. And we're going to begin to activate the core slightly. So we're going to tuck the toes, keep the hands shoulder width apart, keep the shoulders over the wrists, and hover the knees off the mat. So it doesn't matter here whether your hands are on the raised up or not. The knees are only a couple of inches off the mat. We're breathing deeply through the nose. Option to stay here, or option to try and tap the right knee towards the right elbow and back. Left knee and back. Imagine you've got a wine glass on your back. You don't want to spill the wine. Keep the back super still. Keep the belly really sucking in. Big deep breaths through the nose. If you're tapping, we're going to do one more on each side. If you're holding, hold for one more breath. Oh, really good. And then we will come into our downward dog. Just check that your blocks are grippy. If they're not, or the books are sliding, just come onto your hands. Roll the shoulders away from the ears. Big deep breath through the nose. We're going to look forward and we're going to tiptoe the feet towards the hands. Inhale, come up halfway, flat back. Exhale, bend into the legs slightly, forward fold. Releasing the hamstrings, feel lengthening in the lower back. And then we'll plant the hands on the floor or on our block or equivalent. And we're going to do a few toe taps to the ankles. So we're really working the whole length of the core here. Squeeze the belly button in to begin. Bring the weight forward into the hands. Fingers are really spread. And we're going to tap right toe, then left toe. Squeeze the core. How high can you tap the toes? Up. Keep breathing. It really doesn't matter whether your hands are on the mat or raised up. We're going to do 10 more. 9, 8, 7. Really squeeze up. 4, 3, 2, 1, and fold. You can bend into the legs, relax the upper body. Good. We'll bring ourselves onto our knees. Sit back onto the shins, roll the shoulders. Good. Just take a moment here. Hands, palms facing up. Draw the chin down. Just take a moment to bring yourself back to the breath. A few deep breaths through the nose. Good. So we're going to work a little bit into plank to really activate the core and the shoulders before we try out crow with the use of blocks or being slightly raised up. So we'll just move the blocks aside to start with. And we're going to come into high plank. Really spread the fingers, bring one foot out and then the other. And we want to have this rounded shoulder feeling. So we're really pushing out of the hands. Imagine you want the inside of your shoulder blades, this point, to be drawing up, almost rounding the top of the shoulders. Very often we will not have the shoulders over the wrists, so just check in. Are they a bit far back? We need to tip ourselves forward to fully engage the core. It's harder, but it's working better for us. And lift the kneecaps, squeeze the core, breathe through the nose. Big deep breaths. Option to stay here, or option to bring the right hand onto the left shoulder. Left hand onto right shoulder. Again, imagine you've got that wine glass. Try to keep everything the same. Don't let the hips move either. Keep the shoulders over the wrists. We really need control and strength and balance here. So we're leveling up our plank now. We're getting stronger and more stable. Good. We're going to do 3 more. If you need to drop your knees, of course, do that. Focus. Use the breath. 1 more in each side. Good. And then push back to downward dog. Pedal out the heels. Take a rest in child's pose if you need. Big deep breath through the nose. Good, so we're going to level up our dolphin pose now, which we have practiced in previous weeks. So before we practiced dolphin push-ups, we're now going to practice dolphin to downward dog. Now, if this is too hard, then revisit the dolphin push-ups instead. So the dolphin push-ups, can bring the knees down to enter. We're forearm downward dog, and we curl onto our big toes, that same feeling of height when we come into our crow pose, lifting the hips, roll onto our big toes and reach the forehead towards the hands and back. So this is our dolphin pose push-up. We really want to roll onto those big toes. If you look, it's just the tips of my big toes on the mat. So option of that, or option to level up and come from downward dog. And we're going to roll the elbows outside, so bringing the inside crease of the elbows forward, rolling away the shoulders from the ears, bring the elbows down, push the elbows up, really working the triceps. We can do one and then the other, if that works better for you, or try both together. It is hard. Keep the fingers spread, keep your hands from slipping forward. We're going to do 1 more. And then all meet in dolphin pose. Hold it here. Focus on the breath. Bring the feet to center. Inhale, lift the right leg. Hold. How high can you lift that right leg and draw the left heel down? And bring it back. Inhale, lift the left leg. Draw the right heel down. Good. Bring it back. And then bring the knees onto the mat. Slide the hands back towards the knees. Roll the shoulders. Again, just take a moment here. Palms facing up. Take a breath. Just bring the heart rate down for a moment. Feel the heat and the energy rushing through the body. Good, opening the eyes. Perfect. So we're going to come into crow pose now. So we'll just, as always, begin to warm up the wrists slightly. Just wiggling them around, making waves. Good. Okay, so we're going to use the blocks. If you don't have blocks, then it's okay, don't worry. But if you have blocks or books, we're going to try something a little different today. And we're going to place the blocks at sort of the back of the mat. We're going to come into crow pose with the feet on the blocks. And what this is going to do is help have the hips lifting. And hopefully we'll be able to get a bit more height and a little bit more air time potentially if you're at that stage of tapping the toes off. So you might also want to put a cushion in front of the face because we might be flying a little bit more than usual. So if you want to pause and grab a cushion or a blanket or something that can give you a bit more confidence, because often people get scared about coming forward, so that can kind of prevent you from coming forward enough. So we're going to step onto the block and keep everything exactly the same. Knees apart, heels lifting up, planting the hands. My hands are about a foot and a half away from the blocks. Make sure they're at least shoulder width apart. We don't want them too wide, but if they're too narrow, we also won't have great balance. So bring them about shoulder width apart. Look forward, keep the chest lifting. Fingers are really spread. Lift the heels, lift the hips, squeeze the knees onto the back of the arms and begin to tip forward onto the big toes. So we can feel here we're already a bit higher, and it might be easier for us to bring the weight a bit more forward now. Hovering, perhaps. Don't worry about bringing the toes together. Just focus on bringing the weight off the big toes and right into the arms. Squeeze the elbows together. Keep breathing and just hovering, maybe toe tapping. Whatever you need to do, wherever you're at. Take a rest whenever you need to as well. Release the head, release the neck. Let the hands just walk forward. Take a few deep breaths. We'll enter again, have another little play if you feel like it. If you don't, just rest. Fingers are spread and gliding forward. Try not to overthink it, just go with the movement. Can feel it in the hips. Focus on the breath. Squeeze the elbows together. And whenever you're ready to come down, we'll lift the hips, take the feet off the blocks, remove them to the side. Come into a nice gentle forward fold and sway side to side. Big deep breaths. Good. We'll bring the toes facing out wide and sink the hips down. We want the chest to be lifting up, elbows pushing the knees apart. Hopefully we can draw the hands in front of the chest. If not, a block can be useful here to kind of support us. We want the elbows to be pushing the knees away, allowing the hips to sink down. The chest is above the hips. Focus on the breath. And then release the block. So the final thing we're going to do today is a little bit of hip mobility. We're going to face the long edge of the mat, coming back into our low squat. But we're going to widen the stance slightly and begin to sway side to side. As we do, we let the heel lift of the bent leg and the toes lift of the straight leg. We travel over. The heel lifts of this leg, toes lift of that. And we're trying to keep the hips as low as possible and the chest lifting as much as possible. So this is going to look different for everyone, but we're aiming to sink the hips down, and we really feel it in the inside of the hips. Use the hands to help you, or if you feel stable and strong enough, maybe bring the palms to the chest. But this is something that we'll work towards. And this is such a great exercise for building the strength and the flexibility in the hip flexors that we need to be able to sustain and hold crow pose. Good. One more to the back of the mat. bring the hands down, slide the front foot in, and we'll just spin around. Coming back to tabletop, exhale, rounding the back. Inhale, arching. Good, come to neutral spine. We're just gonna make a big circle anti-clockwise with the right knee. And then clockwise. Good. Bring the right knee down, changing legs. Changing direction. Good. Bring both feet to one side, sitting back on the hips. Sliding the hips forward. Wrap the arms around the shins, draw the chin into the chest. Take a few deep breaths here. You've done really well today. Bring yourself back to the breath. Bring the hands behind the thighs. Gently we can roll down onto the back. Let the knees draw into the chest. Release the head down to the mat. Relax the shoulders. Hands over the knees. Open the knees out wide. We'll come to happy baby, holding onto the ankles or the outside edges of the feet, and we'll gently rock side to side. So we worked a little bit into the hips. Next time we will be really focusing on building the hip flexor strength. Relax the shoulders, bring yourself back to the breath. Bringing the feet together and let the feet melt to the mat. A little spinal release, let the knees sway to one side, look over the shoulder. And then the other side. Look over the opposite shoulder. Good. A nice final movement here that's very relaxing. If you do have a block or a book that's suitable, or even a folded blanket or a cushion, is lifting the hips up slightly and placing the item underneath the hip bones, drawing one knee up and then the other, lengthening the legs and bringing the palms facing up. And just a bit of experimentation to find that sweet spot where the legs are suspended in the air and just being held here. Feel the calming effect of an inversion on the body. Breathing into the tummy, feeling super proud of all the little improvements that you're making each time you revisit crow pose. And staying here as long as you feel you need, or entering into a proper Shavasana. Thank you.